All right, it is media day. We are now moved up to the 6A classification, and we're talking 13-6A with Willis head coach Trent Miller. Coach, talk to me. You got yourself a 9-team district. You got a taste of it last year. There's no rest for the weary. You get right into it after 2 games. How did you feel about that district last year? And once you've now got yourself because it was your first season at Willis as well. Now that you've got yourself adapted with the teams that you're going to play, what does it kind of look like for 2023 as well?
We feel really good about moving forward in 2023. And, like you said, our first season last year, jumping into it, we've had a pretty familiar run-in with the Woodlands. When I was at Spring, we played them, I think, 3 years consecutively in the first round of the playoffs. So we were pretty familiar with them. Everyone else in the district, for that matter, though, you think from what you've seen, scores-wise in the area, and you think from the recruiting standpoint of who's kind of got what, but you don't really know until you get out there and you line up against them. There's a lot of very, very talented football teams in 13-6A, and a lot of great coaches, some new coaches that are joining the district at 13-6A this year. So, I think it's stacked up to be another extremely competitive season for every team involved.
Yeah, I know Sean McDowell's going to jump up there to Oak Ridge and try to turn that thing around a little bit, or excuse me, Grand Oaks.
Uh-huh.
But I had Oak Ridge on the mind because that's one of the teams where they seem to have Division I talent on defense all over the place, and you obviously have DJ. Just talking about those two, that matchup in general, it's a battle of the minds there. You got to come up with some sort of way to get past their defense, and they got to try to come up with a way to stop DJ.
No doubt. Oak Ridge is one of those. It's an interesting matchup, like you said. There's so much talent on the field for both teams, and even Taylor Cobb, the offensive coordinator over there, does a phenomenal job in how he sets things up and how he calls the game. And of course, he's an Oak Ridge alum like myself, and so there's a respect level there for each of us that it's kind of one of those deals where it's deeper than just a game of football because we're both graduates of there, good friends off the field, and but yeah, man, that Oak Ridge defense. There's some talented cats over there. I think that Justin Williams at linebacker is probably one of the best high school linebackers I've ever been around, and that says a lot. Being that we've lined up against Westfield for years at Spring. We played DeSoto in the playoffs, we played Duncanville in the playoffs, and that kid he's special. And then with those two defensive linemen they have over there. I think have also been offered by feels like everybody in the country. It gives us some headaches, and so last game of the season that should be a fun one to watch.
So you talked about Justin Williams, man. There's several players in this district where it seems like they've been there forever. Maybe Toyer seems like he's been slinging that thing around for the Woodlands for 4 or 5 years, and then. Of course, you got DJ. Talk a little bit about how he's kind of, I know last year was your first year getting a chance to coach him, but how he's kind of taken over being the captain of this team. He probably was the big leader last year as well, but this year, all eyes nationally and locally are going to be on him. Just talk about maybe how he's kind of handling that kind of pressure.
Yeah, I think the biggest positive for DJ right now is the fact that he got the commitment with the University of Florida out of the way back in December. And I think for him, it's given him the ability to kind of take a step back and take a deep breath and just focus on what we're trying to do here at Willis High School. And not that he wasn't doing that last year at all. He was just being pulled in so many different directions from, this school and that school and talking about this and talking about that. And of course, everybody, has all the hype around him. And it's a lot for a 17-year-old kid to deal with. And he always handled it first class and with the utmost respect with everybody that he came in contact with. But now that we've gotten all that kind of out of the way, and he's locked in, he's going to Florida, he's focused on that. He has been a tremendous asset from a leadership standpoint for this program. Really since I've been here, but even more so now that he can focus, everything, of his being with Willis High School. And his leadership on the field, off the field is something that I've never seen before. What he and his family do for this town and this community is unbelievable. And I think, this is the first time that I've been around him where I feel like he's completely 100% healthy. He gets banged up every football season because of the kind of player he is. And he's usually always gone right into basketball and then right into baseball on top of 7 days a week training. And, he had the high ankle sprain this past season that kind of carried over, throughout the duration of the season. So he didn't play basketball, decided to focus solely on his development as a quarterback in the offseason. So he didn't play baseball. So now, he hasn't had that consistent pounding throughout the course of the offseason. And so, he looks good, says he feels good, and he's done some ridiculous things with the football this spring. And man, he's just he's a special talent. He's a once in a lifetime type player for a high school football coach, and we could be more excited to have him.
That's awesome. You look back at your Wildcats last year, 5-5, but you didn't hurt on offense. You put up solid numbers, especially that 4-game winning streak. It looked like everything was clicking right there. What do you need to improve on in 2023 to make that push from 5-5 to maybe 7-3, 8-2, something like that?
I think the biggest thing for us is developing the culture, in this football program and in this community. Not that the culture was bad. I just think that there was a lot of young men that were okay with just being okay. Being close in a game was good enough. And developing, that killer instinct and that attitude in these young men, I think was the biggest thing we focused on this offseason, and teaching them how to compete and how to win. We got here last year in April, so we didn't get to go through an offseason with them. I got hired in the middle of April, and 2.5 weeks later, we're starting spring football. So, I'm doing that with 4 coaches on staff, trying to hire, 10 more. So, the moment we stepped foot on campus, you're playing catch up. I didn't really, finally unload all my boxes, in my office until January when football season was over. And so, now having a full off season with these young men, and instilling our culture, our beliefs, our standards, it's night and day from what it looked like last year from a developmental standpoint, and the attitude that these young men have walking in and out of these doors every single day.
Well, let me. We talked a lot about DJ. Let me leave you with maybe name 2 or 3 players that people don't really know about, because a lot of people that's not deep into Houston high school football, they'll look at, okay, they have DJ Lagway, and then they'll move on to the next team. Talk about a couple other players that may surprise us.
The most exciting player in our program, kind of up there with DJ, is Jermaine Bishop Jr. He was a freshman for us last year, played corner, was a punt returner, a kick returner. Ended up having 5 interceptions, was the district newcomer of the year, first team all-county player. He's picked up Division I offers from Texas, Florida, I want to say TCU, Nebraska, kind of some heavy hitters. And I think he's another young man that'll be a national recruit that'll be offered by probably everybody in the country.
Well, it sounds like you're excited. That excitement comes up over this interview for sure, because it's got me excited as well. I guess I will leave you with this. In a 9-team district, how do you feel about that? Is that easier or harder? In one side, you'd say it might be a little bit easier, because if you get a loss here, you can still make up for it. You have 8 or 7 other games. And again, you got 5 teams you got to jump over to get into the playoffs. Do you like a 9-team district, or would you rather have it a little bit lower?
Man, that's a tough one. I think I would probably prefer, the 14-6-8, brand, where you had the spring and the all-dean schools, because you had 3 non-district games to schedule, and then you had a built-in bye week that everybody had the same bye week, and then you get right into district play. And on the right year, if everything works out, in your favor, you only got to win 3 games, to make the playoffs. You can go, 3-5, in certain scenarios to make it. And so that was always nice. But I do like the challenge. What I will say is I don't love the idea of whoever scheduled the Temple game week 2 before we got here, because those dudes are, absolute freaks up there in Temple, Texas. But, having a lot of teams, every game matters, I guess, is the best way to put it. And not that it wouldn't matter if there were less teams in the district, but you're fighting for something. It feels like every single week in a 9-team district. And there's nobody to sleep on. There's no game that you kind of circle and go, okay, that's an easy win.
I appreciate you stopping down with me, and good luck when the season comes around.
Yes, sir, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show, man.
No problem.